entranceway and... Chapter 3. A Whole New World. Eva walked through the entranceway and turned to the left. A long hallway led to just one door at the end of it. The walls were covered in pictures of space. Black holes, nebulas, star systems. Eva thought that was also a strange choice of decor, but she did love looking at them. A sign on the door said, "Changing Room." Eva had never seen just one changing room in a place before, but consignment shops could be quirky. She shrugged and walked through the door. The room looked like any other changing room, a full-length mirror sat opposite the door. The glass had an odd glow to it. Clothing hooks and bench were on the right. Eva hung the shirt on the hooks. As she hung up the shirt, she saw the side of the mirror. It looked like the mirror was actually the front of a door. Eva furrowed her eyebrows and grabbed the side of the mirror, pulling it forward. It opened a little. A light glowed through the small opening. Eva gasped and jumped back. She reached out slowly and pulled the mirror toward her more. The light expanded to the dressing room. Eva peeked her head around the opening to see what was on the other side.
Her head around the opening to see what was on the other side.
When the mirror swung open, Eva saw another dressing room. This one had a bench on the left and slightly different wallpaper. She frowned. Why would this dressing room open up into another dressing room? Curiosity finally got the better of her. She stepped through the mirror into the other dressing room. She closed the mirror, but made sure there was a little crack showing before going out the door of the other dressing room. To her surprise, Eva suddenly found herself not in the other dressing room, but in the alley. Only it looked different. It seemed cleaner and brighter. Eva was baffled. How had she stepped out into the alley instead of into the dressing room she'd seen? She turned to go back through the door, but it had vanished. Panic flooded Eva. She put her hands against the suddenly concrete wall and pressed all over. Nothing gave way. Her heart pounded in her ears. This couldn't be possible. Was she going crazy? Okay, she said to herself, taking a deep breath. Just get home. Whatever happened must have been some kind of fluke. Eva looked at the sun heading toward the horizon and thought of her mom and dad at home. They would be one.
Instead of her mom and dad at home, it would be
why she hadn't come home yet. The thought gave her enough courage to step away from the wall and start walking to the street. But when she got to the sidewalk, Eva noticed that the storefronts on the street looked different. Instead of the sign for Martha's Muffins that Eva was used to, the sign now said Martha's Magnificent Muffins. The sidewalk had some sort of chocolate art on it that she didn't remember seeing when she'd walked into the consignment store. And the people around her looked familiar, but different somehow. She felt like she did when she missed a step walking downstairs. Something wasn't quite right. It almost seemed like she was in a totally different Raven's Pass. But how could that be? Eva walked down the street, trying to get her bearings. People smiled at her as she passed them, and she smiled back. But the creepy feeling she'd had kept crawling up her spine. She quickened her pace as she walked home. Eva crossed the street in the direction of her neighborhood, but everything was different there too. This street led to a park instead of to more streets with houses on them. Her house, in fact. Eva felt like she was going to pass out. She walked quickly into the park and sat down on a tree-shaded bench by a beautiful pond. She put her head between her knees and tried to breathe slowly, but tears came anyway. She was hopelessly lost in a world she didn't understand. Slowly, Eva became aware of voices nearby. They sounded about her age. She sat up and looked around the tree. A group of girls stood in a circle, chatting. Eva couldn't see all of them, but she could hear part of their conversation. "Well, I'll come over this weekend then, and we can ride horses. But I also want to play that new game, Second World, on the PS7. Are your parents still going to get you the new system?" a girl asked, flipping her long hair over her shoulder. "Mm-hmm," a voice said, a very familiar voice. "Yeah, they're going to get it for me tonight.
Yeah, they're going to get it for me tonight.
Else want to come over tomorrow?" Eva swallowed hard.
Over tomorrow?
Eva
swallowed hard. She suddenly
knew why that voice sounded so familiar. It was her voice. Eva peeked again and stifled a scream. It was her. She looked just like her, only better dressed, and she stood tall with her shoulders back and her head up. Eva was staring at what she could only describe as a better version of herself. The girls stopped talking and moved to leave. Eva had to make a choice. Search for the door back to her own world or figure out what was going on in this one. She stood up and set her mouth. She began to follow her look-alike through the park.